Rabotai, Yonah Ephraim Abinian and his Rebbetzin, just 10 minutes ago, they had the baby boy.
Wow,
and he's sitting right over here at Amud Yomi.
Wow,
Amazing.
Wow.
Great to have this. Yeah, like literally a few minutes ago. And he's right there, Amud Yomi, sitting here. Amazing. Mazal Tov, should be Brit Bismano, the school of Gadol Torah, Lachupa,
Amen.
Okay, this is Mr. Nefesh for Torah.
Yeah, that's right.
Good morning, Morai Rabotai. We are continuing on Masechet Berachot, and we are holding on Daf Yud Chet, Amud 18b, and our learning of Amud Yomi for the month of Av is sponsored by Mr. and Mrs. Navi Bayamfar for the Refuah Shlema of Shefa Bat Nechama, and for the health and happiness and success of the children of Elmi and Bat Zipporah, Hannah Bat Zipporah, and Rachel Bat Zipporah, and Sophia Sarah Bat Zipporah, that they should have much Yiddish and Nachat from them. Amen.
Amen.
We are amidst an amazing Gemara of whether or not there's real, true Agadah, of whether or not the deceased know what happens in this world, or maybe they don't know, they have no idea. Maybe after Lametim Hofshi, and maybe Metim Lo Yodi Meuma, maybe they don't know anything of what happens in this world. We had the debate between Rabbi and Yonatan. Then we had the debate between the sons. It's the story with that chassid, the one chassid that we mentioned. The Gemara says usually the chassid is a reference to Rabbi Yehuda ben Baba or Rabbi Yehuda bar Ilai, and he got into a little bit of a machloket, a little bit of a heated argument with his wife, an Erev Rosh Hashanah, and he goes and he sleeps in the Bet HaKivarot, and he hears this neshamot of two young girls talking about the finances and the agricultural ideas of the coming year, of what's going to stay, what's going to be ruined by hail, and he utilized the advice and he made millions. The second year he did it and it worked as well. So far the Gemara seems to indicate that the deceased actually do know what happens in this world, and we are amidst this Gemara, how his wife told him, what happened since I kicked you out of the house, things have been going well. So he told her the whole story of how he went to the Bet HaKivarot, and he heard over the discussion between the two girls, and the Gemara says after a few weeks there was a fight that broke between the wife of this chassid and the mother of that girl that was buried with machselet shel kanim, was buried not in such a respectful way. Instead of having proper tachlichim, she was buried, because the family was so poor, she was buried in a small bamboo mat, so to speak. And that's the reason that she was not comfortable traveling in the neshama and hearing Ma'achorei Pargot herself. So in the heat of the moment, the wife of the chassid berates the mother of this girl and says, you that you didn't even have kavod for your girl, and she's so uncomfortable, even in Olam HaEmet, she's not comfortable, and so on. So third year.
How did they know who her mother was?
Well, the chassid knew who these two neshamot are.
Oh.
So everybody knew in the village back in the time who was who. Says the Gemara. First white line in Yudchet Amud Bet. The Shana Acheret, the third year comes Erev Rosh Hashanah, Halach Velan Bebet HaKivarot. By this time, this Chassid already has a Hazakah and specific space next to the Kivarot over here. The Shama Otan Ruchot Shemesaperot Zuim Zu. And he hears over this two neshamot that once again they're conversing, they're talking. Amra la chaverti, boi v'nashut ba'olam. So as in the past 2 years, one of them tells the other one, let's go and hear and figure out what's going to be happening in the world in this coming year. What's going to be coming to the world? Amra, and she says to her, Chaverti hinechani, says, leave me alone. Leave me alone. Let's not do this. Why? Because devarim shebeni lebenech kevar nishmeu ben achayim. Our private conversation over here already has leaked within the living. They already know the embarrassing fact of me being buried like this, and also the information that we gave about the agricultural system has been all leaked within the living. So let's just keep it quiet and let's not do that. Right? So that's the story. So says the Gemara, Alma, you see from here, Yadi. How did they know? How did she know that people have found out what has happened with their conversation? You see that she knows that this fellow kind of figured out, and then the wife of this Chassid went and fought with her mother and berated her mother, and she felt uncomfortable about it. So you see from here, says the Gemara, that the deceased know what happens in this world. So says the Gemara, maybe not. Dilma inish acharina shachid ve'azil ve'amar lehu. Maybe somebody else passed away and went and told her what happened. Because again, people who were living with last Rosh Hashanah, they for sure know what happened. They remember the big fight between the wife of the Chassid and the mother of this fellow. It became top news in town. And therefore, when they passed away, they went and they said, you have no idea. The Neshamot told the Neshama of this girl, you have no idea how this Peloni's wife berated your mom and spoke about you and how you're buried and so on and so forth. So maybe that's, in other words, the Gemara's backdrop is that they do know. And the Gemara says, no, it's not a proof. It's not a raya, because maybe, just maybe, she knew it from another neshama that has recently come from this world, and that's how they knew. But if nobody would die and go and tell them, they don't on their own, they wouldn't know what happens in this world. Okay, says the Gemara. Tashma, the Ziri have a mafkid zuzi. Another proof the Gemara attempts to bring that Ziri had put some money. The woman that owned the hotel that he was staying in, or he was renting an apartment, a house from her, had some money that he had given to her to keep for him. And then at the Ati, Ve'azil, he went and he came back. Leberav, Shechiva, he went to Bet Midrash, he gave his savings to this woman, said, keep it for me, I go to Bet Midrash for a few months and come back. And until he came back, she passed away. So says the Gemara, now how does he get the money back? Well, for us it would be a problem, but for Zeiri, for the Chachamim of the Gemara, not necessarily a problem. What happened exactly? He went to Chasar Mavet, he went to the Bet HaKvarot, Amar la, Zuzi Hecha, and he says to her, where is my money? In other words, he connects with the neshama of this woman. They find this in the Gemara in Baba Kama, Daf Kuf Zayin. The Gemara says, Rav and Shmuel, Rav went to the Bet HaKvarot, ve'avid ma'ida avid, and he did what he did. Rashi says there, he could connect with the neshamot, and he took a census basically and tried to figure out what was the cause of death for most people. And it came out that 99+% of people all die for one reason. That's what the Gemara there says. So you see that they could connect with the neshamot. Here the Gemara says, he went and he said, okay, where is my money? And she says, Zil shaklinhu mitute besinora dedasha. It says under the hinge of a door is buried in this place, beduch flan. The Emma says, also, once I have you over here, tells Zeiri, says, go tell my mother, this was a woman that died young, Rahman litzlan, and he says, go tell my mother, Tishtarli masrikai v'guvtai de kuchla behade palanita, that she should send my brush and my makeup with so-and-so that's coming to me tomorrow. In other words, that's dying tomorrow. So Fashim say, what does that mean exactly? Well, you don't use a brush in Olam Haba. Says she was basically sending a message to mom that she had this feeling of unfortunate ending, that she had to pass away so young, like a girl that's still thinking about the looks and beauty and so on. So that's like just the emotions that she is relaying to be told to the mother, but also she's sending a message that so-and-so is dying tomorrow, right? So says the Gemara, Alma, yeah, that's clear. Like, she even knows who's going to die tomorrow. So they certainly know what's happening in this world. So the Gemara pushes back. This is already getting narrower and narrower. But the Gemara says, Dilma duma kadim umachriz lehu. Maybe the malach that is in charge of the neshamot, his name is Duma. Maybe that malach kadim umachriz lehu. When someone is about to come, it's already like sealed and signed. It gives an announcement that so-and-so is going to be coming here tomorrow or very soon. So maybe that's the pshat. Maybe because of that, she knew that this Planita, this friend, is going to be coming to Olam Haba tomorrow. So again, the Gemara's backdrop is that they do know. It seems like the proof of the Gemara is pretty solid, but the Gemara kind of gets out of it that no, not necessarily. It's not a proof, because there would have been other ways for them to know. The Fashim say, by the way, why is the malach that's in charge of death called Duma? Duma means quietness. So because a human being's main power in the world is your power of speech. Your power of speech. And when a person passes away, that's the one thing that you miss. You can't do mitzvot with your mouth. You cannot interact with your power of speech. That's why the malach that is in charge of death is called Duma. By the way, in the story that we just had before of a person, this chassid that goes to the Bet HaKvarot, there is kedai to mention a machloket rishonim. There are those who say, especially based on the Gemara that we just mentioned, that this hahu chassid, the pious individual, whenever the Gemara says the pious guy, is either a reference to Rabbi Yehuda bar Rabbi Ilai, or Rabbi Yehuda ben Baba. So the Mefarshim ask, Marsha is very bothered with the fact that in Rosh Hashanah, that everyone goes to mikveh on Erev Rosh Hashanah to be tahor for Yom Adin. This person would go to Bet HaChaim, go to Bet HaKvarot, to cemetery, to make himself tameh. This doesn't make sense. How do you do that on Leil Rosh Hashanah? Of course, Maram Bet Yosef, he brings that he went because he did not want to continue a machloket with his wife, and the reason he didn't go to one of his friends' houses was because he did not want his private machloket to be known to people. So that's what Maran seems to understand the Gemara literally. But the Ritba writes, and the Marsha follows that, the Ritba writes that this whole thing did not happen in real life. This whole thing was a chalom, because he was bothered with the fact that he got into a debate with his wife because of parnasah. So he was thinking of, maybe I should work and daven to Hashem to have parnasah properly, not to get into this kind of situation. And therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed him on the chalom of Leil Rosh Hashanah, on the night of Rosh Hashanah, which the Marsha writes, the chalomot, the dreams of Rosh Hashanah are more true than other nights. So showed him what's going to be the system that he's going to be successful in his planting and plowing and business basically in the coming year. But the thing never actually happened that he would go and sleep in the Bet HaKvarot. That's what the Ritba seems to say. The Marsha follows that. The Ben Ish Chai even in Ben Yoyada follows this. He holds that this is the real shot, that this never really happened in actuality. He has a little twist to explain how the details of this happened. But on the other hand, the Ramban, the Nachmanides, seems to clearly say that this actually happened. Maran Bet Yosef, as we mentioned right now, he also follows the simple understanding of the Gemara that this actually did happen. So you have this notion of the questions that we have in the Gemara. The simple understanding of the Gemara, of course, is that this did happen, but there are fundamental questions on it, which again push some of the Mefarshim to translate this not literal, but more of a homiletic thing that happened in Mar'eh HaNevuah, so to speak, of Ruach HaKodesh. We find that the Chalomot, the dreams of Rosh Hashanah, are more true because, think about it, when was the Chalom of Paro? Rashi says, Vayerutzuhu min habor vayigalach. It was Rosh Hashanah morning. So it comes out that the dream of Paro was night of Rosh Hashanah. How about the dream of Sar Mashkim and Sar Ha'ofim? Right? The Pasuk says by Paro mikes shenatayim yamim. It was exactly at the end of 2 years. So it means that their dream also was on Leil Rosh Hashanah. So you find that the dreams of Leil Rosh Hashanah are more fun to be spending a whole lot of time about dreams, and we're going to discuss which dreams are true, which ones are not, and how much weight to put on dreams, and so on and so forth. So says the Gemara. Another attempt. Tashma. The father of Shmuel, right? Father of Shmuel, Rav Shmuel. The father of Shmuel, his name was Abba Bar Abba, as we're going to see. That was his name. But he was called Avu Adi Shmuel. Now, simply understanding he was called Avu Adi Shmuel because Shmuel was so famous, right? But it's fascinating that the Maran Chida brings in Sefer Petach Einayim from Rabbi Gaon. Says, you know why he was called Avu Adi Shmuel? It's an amazing story attached to this. Because Avu Adi Shmuel once was doing business out of town, and there's this woman that was a stargazer that came and offered him thousands of boxes of jewelry and silver to sleep with her that night. And he's like, wow, well, this is out of the norm. Imagine millions of dollars worth of money. And she said, because I saw that tonight there's going to be a child born from you that's going to be Yahid Yuchad in the entire generation. No one is going to be like him. He's going to be the wisest man, the most tremendous scholar in every Chokhmah. And you see Shmuel actually later on, you see that he was, he understood stars and calendars, and not just the Torah, but the entire spectrum of the regular Chokhmot. Also, Shmuel was a master on. So he realized that, well, maybe there's some truth in this. So he used, says Rabbi Gaon, he used a Shema Mefurash of the Kfitzat HaDerech. He went home to be with his wife, and he came back. And therefore, people, not everyone was sure that what happened with this. He was on a trip, not everyone saw him. And the wife got pregnant and gave birth. But because he came back afterwards and he was me'id that this is my son, they called him Avu Adi Shmuel. That the father of Shmuel became the nickname of Abba Bar Abba, Rab Abba Bar Abba, in order to emphasize this story, this fact that this actually happened. So it says the Gemara. That's Rabbi Gaon. Maran Chida brings it in the name of the Geoni. Says the Gemara, Avu Adi Shmuel was a trustworthy individual. So people would give the money, the inheritance of Yetomim, of people who lost their parents, Rahman and became orphans. He was the trustworthy bank, so to speak, to the money of orphans. So what happened was he passed away, and Shmuel was not there. He passed away. Shmuel was not around for him to tell Shmuel where he hid the money. Back then, it was no safes, no banks. And they used to dig it somewhere in the ground and hide the money. So people said, give us our money. I said, what money? You didn't know anything about it. And they said, must be that you're withholding our money. Right? You see, Shmuel was one of the greatest chachamim of his time. And yet no one is safe from being called names. It's just the fact of the morale of the story. Moshe Rabbeinu, Chazal say, he did the slightest deviation, people would call him names. Moshe Rabbeinu. This is the facts of life. So says the Gemara, you're the son of the guy that ate the money of orphans. So he was very disturbed by this, of course. So he goes to Bet HaKvarot to connect with his father to ask him, where is the money? So he goes there. Amalehu ba'ina abba. So again, he's connecting with the neshamot of the people who are buried there in the Bet HaKvarot, and he tells them, I'm looking for Abba, for my father. Meaning not Abba, my father, but his name was Abba. Amruleh, they said to him, which Abba? A lot of Abbas buried here. Amalehu ba'ina Abba bar Abba. I want the one that his name is Abba and his father's name is Abba. Abba bar Abba. Amruleh, Abba bar Abba nami tuvaika. We have also a lot of Abba bar Abbas here. Which one? Amalehu, he said, ba'ina Abba bar Abba Abu Shmuel. Right? The father of Shmuel, Abba bar Abba. He said, oh, that we know. Amruleh, salik limetifta dirakia. Why, you think he's going to be sitting here wasting time? Smoking e-cigarette? He's up in the Bet Midrash learning, right? The metifta dirakia. He's learning in the Yeshiva Shel Mala. Adahachi chasya leLevi. So he saw Levi the Yotiv Abatrai. Levi was a tremendous Talmid Chacham of the previous generation. And he was a Talmid of Rabbeinu HaKadosh, Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi. He indeed was one of the best of the students of Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi. So what happened? He sees that Levi is not in the Yeshiva Shel Mala. He's not entered in the Yeshiva Shel Mala. He's sitting there down with this losers, so to speak, right? And he's even sitting outside them because he doesn't want to hang out with the neshama, does not want to be with the neshamot of the other people. By the way, that's the reason that Shulchan Aruch paskins, you don't want a Rasha and a Tzaddik to be buried next to each other, because it's uncomfortable for the neshama of Tzaddik to be in vicinity of someone that's not the same level. Right? The halachot of husband and wife, if a husband had two wives, which one gets buried next to? There are lots and lots of halachot, and once we added, therefore it's important the cemetery that the person chooses to bury their parents or themselves, the plot that they buy, is not simple. For instance, right? We all know, don't want to get into defamation issues here, but we all know a cemetery that is very well liked and used by our community, and there are thousands of goyim buried there. Why? Because they don't check for reform, not reform, and so on. They'll have all these questionable geruts that are drive-throughs, see one, do one, teach one type of thing. You give your money, and I'll give you a certificate. Those types of so-called converts are all buried over there. They are considered goyim for all practical purposes. So it's something important to keep in mind as well in a halachic aspect of things. But nevertheless, he sees Levi that's out there. He says, what are you doing over here? You have to be in Yeshiva Shel Mala. Why are you out? Why are you not entered there? Amale, Amai, Yatvat Abrai, why are you sitting outside? My Tamola Salkat, why didn't you go up to the Yeshiva Shel Mala? Amale, Levi told him, the Amrili, they told me from the Betin Shel Mala, Kol ki anachshani de sadikat lemetifta Rab Efes. All of the years that you did not join the yeshiva of Rab Efes, and you hurt his feelings by not going in, you're not going to be allowed in the yeshiva of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yeshiva Shel Mala. What's the story? The story is like this. When Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi was on his deathbed, when he was dying, he gave it Sava'ah, who should be the next Rosh Yeshiva, right? And it was not Rabbi Efes, right? It was Rabbi Chama Bar Chanina. He was the biggest Talmid Chacham of the entire Chevra. So he said he should be the Rosh Yeshiva. But he did not agree to be the Rosh Yeshiva because Rabbi Efes was 2 years, I think, older than him. Was a little older than him, even though that he was not as big of a Talmid Chacham. He said it's not kavod. He should be the Rosh Yeshiva first. and he did not accept the kavod of being the Rosh Hashiva after Rabbeinu HaKadosh Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi. So he became Rabbi Efes, became the Rosh Hashiva, but Rabbi Chanina, he stayed outside. He stayed outside because he did not want to go against the Sava'ah of his Rebbe, Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, that he had said that he should be the Rosh Hashiva. So if he would be outside the yeshiva, this is kind of like he's not part of the yeshiva, then he's not going against his Rebbe. So he stayed outside and listened to whatever was done, but did not enter the yeshiva. So not because he did not have kavod for Rabbi Efes, on the contrary, because of the kavod he had for someone older, he had him to be Rosh Hashiva. Well, because of the kavod he had for Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, it was kind of like a catch-22. So stayed outside. Levi, for the kavod of Rabbi Chanina, that was supposed to be the Rosh Hashiva, he said it's not nice that he's going to be sitting outside alone. So he went and joined him outside, and from outside he was listening. But this, of course, would hurt a little bit, even the slightest, the feeling of the Rosh Hashiva, the current Rosh Hashiva. And this is the background of this story. So Levi is telling Shmuel, he says, in Betin Shel Mala, they paskin that all of those years that Rav Efes was the Rosh Hashiva, and I did not enter the yeshiva, and thereby I hurt his feeling a little bit. The amount of those times I'm not going to be allowed in Yeshiva Shel Mala. What a Musar Haskell this is. Again, these are things that you don't see in the Yeshiva, in the Gemara, the background, unless you see the Gemara in Ketuvot Daf Kuf Gimal, which this story is brought. But nevertheless, this is the first half of this story. Fine. So says the Gemara. In the meantime, they had called the father of Shmuel, and he comes. The Neshama of the father of Shmuel comes. Shmuel sees his father that is crying and laughing. So he says, "What's that?" Amale, my tama kabachi. Why are you crying, Abba? Amale, he said, "De la agal ka'atit," because very soon you're going to be joining me in Olam Haba. In other words, he's telling Shmuel, soon you're going to die. Shmuel died very young. He was 52 years old when he passed away. There are several people in the history of the Jewish Gedolei Olam that they passed away in the age of 52. Of course, the Gemara says someone that died at 52 is Mitato Shel Shmuel HaRamati. Shmuel HaNavi died at age 52, but also Shlomo Melech died at 52. Right? He became king when he was 12, before Bar Mitzvah. He took over for David HaMelech, and then he was king for 40 years. So he also passed away at 52. Shmuel passed away at 52. Shmuel HaKatan, which we're going to discuss him, we had him already once before. We're going to have him in a more serious way later on. That he was involved very much with the nusach of the tefillah. So when we discuss the tefillah, we're going to have him again. He passed away at the age 52 as well. It's actually very interesting. Rama Mipano, Menachem Azaria Mipano, he writes that Shmuel HaNavi was the Gilgul, became the Gilgul of Avu Hadi Shmuel. And Shaul HaMelech became the Gilgul of Shmuel, the son of Avu Hadi Shmuel, our Shmuel. So it's very interesting. This is a replay of, we know the story that Shaul, at the end of his life, the last battle that he fought was very disturbed. He went to know what was happening. He went and called upon the neshama of Shmuel rather. Shaul was disturbed, and he called upon the neshama of Shmuel HaNavi, and he told him, Machar, tomorrow you're going to be with me, you're going to be coming to this world, basically you're going to die. And here is the same thing, that the Gilgul of Shaul is going to the Gilgul of Shmuel. It's a replay of the same thing. Happens to be, says the Rama Mipano, and he's getting the same message that soon you're going to be with me in Olam Haba. So nevertheless, the Gemara says, "My tama achichat." So fine. Why are you laughing? What's the reason for that? He says, "The chashivat b'hai almatuba," because you have no clue how important you are in this world. Says your status over here is just unbelievable. So Amaleh, now, if you realize that you have pools and you have connections up there, what do you use it for? I would say, well, if I am so big in that world, let it be that they should change the Gezerah, and it shouldn't be 52, it should be maybe 62, right? Give me another few years. But he didn't ask for himself. He says, Amaleh, if I'm so chashuv in this world, Levi. They should allow Levi to come to the Bet Midrash already. And says the Gemara, immediately they allowed Levi to enter the Yeshiva Shel Mala. Sadiq Ozer, v'Hakadosh Baruch Hu Mekayem. Amaleh, so now he came for business, right? So he says, okay, people are calling me names. Where is the money of the Yatomim? It says the Gemara, Amaleh, Zil Shaklinhu, Be'amta Derechaya, go next to where we have our private mill grinding, and underneath the side of that, you dig, and that's where the money is. And there are 3 different bunches of money buried there, and different layers of the ground. So you dig, you find 3 piles of money. The first one is ours. The middle one is the Yatomim. The bottom one is ours again, right? The top one and the bottom one is ours. The Yatmi. And the middle one is the money of the Yatomim. Amaneh, my tama after. Why did you do it like this? Amaleh, he said, Igenuvi Ganvi, because I figured if the thieves come, someone figures out that I'm burying money here and so on, and they come and they dig, they'll first hit our money and not steal the orphans' money. I wanted to be a proper guardian on the money of the Yatomim, because they have no recourse, these orphans, poor guys. So this way, if the thieves find it, if they see they hit gold, they'll take the first bunch. They don't see the second one because it's a different layer. And the money of the Yatomim would be safe. They should steal ours. And also if they start to decompose because of the moist of the bottom layers of the land, also should be ours that gets decomposed and ruined, not the money of Yatomim. So this is basically was sandwiching them in 3 different layers, was his way of protecting the money of Yatomim. Wonderful. So says the Gemara, Alma Diyadi. You see that they know. Now this is Machlokes Rashi and Tosafot. What's the Raya? Is the Raya is the proof from the fact that he knew that his son is so chashuv, right? He's doing so well, or is the Raya from the fact that he knew that he's going to be dying soon, right? Which one it is? Machlokes Rashi and Tosafot. Says the Gemara, Dilma Shani Shmuel Kivan the Chashiv Katmi Umachlis. Gemara says no. This is also not an airtight proof, because maybe Shmuel, who is so chashuv, he has things going on for him, so they have extra announcements in Shamayim. They say, very soon there's this Sadiq, the Gadol Ador is going to be coming, right? Acham Obadiah is going to be coming. The Gadol Ador of the generation. So maybe that's why Avodah Shmuel knew, but in general sense, maybe they don't. Okay? They say, Panu Makom, open the way and get ready for the Gadol Ador that's coming. Maybe that's why they. So now, so far, the Gemara seems to push every time that they do know. And the Gemara says, well, maybe not necessarily. Now the Gemara seems to get maskana in this line. Remember, the first machloket was between Rav Chanina and Rabbi Yonatan, right? And Gemara said Rabbi Chia and Rabbi Yonatan. And Gemara said Rabbi Yonatan was the one that said they don't know, right? So how do they know? But Gemara says even he changed his mind. Even Rabbi Yonatan changed his mind. The Amar Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani Amar Rabbi Yonatan. Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani said in the name of Rabbi Yonatan, how do you know that the deceased, they do converse and they do exchange information? As it says, Hashem told Moshe, this is the land that I'm giving the Bnei Yisrael right now, is the land that I had promised their forefathers Abraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov to give to their children. But there's a word in the pasuk that doesn't belong. Lemor. What does lemor mean usually? Lemor means saying, to go and say. So what's Lemor doing there? This is the land that I, Nishbati LaAvraham Yitzchak Yaakov, Lemor. So says the Gemara, my Lemor, what is Lemor doing here? Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu leMoshe. Hashem is telling Moshe Rabbeinu, Lech amor lahem LaAvraham Yitzchak Yaakov. Go tell them. Go tell Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov that I fulfilled my promise. The promise I gave them that I'm going to give Eretz Yisrael to their children. Here I am. I'm fulfilling. I'm paying up the promise that I gave. The shvuah that I swore to you, I fulfilled it already with your children. And says the Gemara, if you say that they don't know, if you say that they don't care, they don't know, they have no business in this world, so what that they know? So what that you go tell them? They don't care, they don't know anything about this world. So says the Gemara, Elamai, the Yadi. So what? You want to suggest that they do know? If they do know, why does Moshe have to go tell them? They already know. Says the Gemara. So says the Gemara, no. That is to give credit to Moshe that for 40 years he worked hard with Klal Yisrael and he tolerated the difficulty. That's why Hashem wanted to give credit to Moshe that he should be the messenger, so to speak, to tell it to the Avot, to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So it seems from here that the maskana of the Gemara is that actually, indeed, the deceased know what happens in this world. That seems to be the maskana of the Gemara. After the whole amud of going back and forth, seems the Gemara is basically coming to a close that the deceased do know what happens in this world. So says the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, kol ha-mesaper acharei hamet, ki'ilu mesaper acharei ha'even. If you speak behind a deceased person, someone that died, it's as if you're speaking behind a piece of stone, a piece of rock. So Ikat Amri, there's two ways to understand this sentence. There are those who say, There are those who say no, the reason is because they don't know. And there are those who say, no, they do know, but they don't care about what happens in this world. So you spoke Lashon Hara about them. That you berated their kavod. Who cares? That they're so much higher than the petty issues of kavod and ego in this world that they don't care that you say something negative about them. One says, Ini, that's true. Rapapa once said, one time somebody spoke negatively about Shmuel. This is after Shmuel passed away. And one of the beams, the pillars of the house dropped on his skull and smashed his head. So it was a clear thing that an unusual, almost miraculous thing happened to punish this guy on the spot. So the Papa said basically that you see that this is not free for all. Gemara says, it's different when you talk about the Gadol Ador, you talk about the Tamei Hacham, it's very different because it's not that he cares or he knows, it's that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees to it that people who speak negatively about Talmidei Chachamim, they don't get away unscathed. They're going to be punished, which really bridges our Gemara with the next Gemara we're going to see tomorrow of people who speak behind the back of deceased individuals, especially when they are Talmidei Chachamim, and Bezat Hashem will continue that in the days to come.